In this video, we're gonna do a little Dr. Frankenstein with a 1911. So we're gonna see just what we can do with the 1911 design. And we got all what we need on this table right here. In these two boxes, a magazine, and this fine flathead screwdriver. Now, I got a 9mm high capacity 1911 in the left side, and I got a single stack 45 ACP 1911 on the right side. Now, what can I do if I got these two 1911s over here? I'm gonna show you how easy it is to swap calibers and frames on the 1911. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna disassemble or just take apart the slide from the frames of these 1911s. So let me check if this one is safe. So this 9mm high cap 1911 is clear. I'm just gonna do a quick takedown of this slide. The whole slide system of this 9mm is already intact. What I need is this high capacity frame. Alright. So now I'm gonna take apart the single stack 45 1911. So this is a little more classic. This design has the standard guide rod. Be careful when removing this because spring cap. What we have laid out right now is a 9mm upper, a slide assembly with a 9mm barrel, and a 9mm recoil spring system. So it has the proper weight for this 9mm load, or 9mm chambering. We have a high capacity frame, which actually you could use for any of these two calibers. You have a single stack frame, which had the 45 on previously. So actually what we can do here is a little mix and matching. I'm gonna put this high capacity frame and put the 45 on it. So what we have here is the upper slide assembly of the 45 ACP, and we have the high capacity frame which we got from the 9mm. We want to put these two together in order to achieve a 45 high cap 1911. Now before we do this, just one small point we gotta keep in mind is the ejector of the 1911. The 9mm ejector is a little longer than the 45 ACP if you compare the two. So in order to achieve proper ejection, we're gonna have to put the 45 ACP ejector into the high capacity frame. Now to remove this, you may have to punch out a pin, which I already have done, which retains the ejector in place, and then you may need a thin flathead screwdriver to get it out from its slot. First time it's gonna be stuck in there. Same with the 45 one. There's a hole there, which is normally, there's a pin which retains this ejector in place. To get it out, you're going to need a flathead screwdriver to just pry it out a bit. And now we got the 45 ejector. Now this is a note that we particularly have to keep in mind when doing caliber changes. Whether you're doing a single stack 45 and you want to swap it out to become a single stack 9mm or a 40 Smith & Wesson, remember to use the proper ejector. So what we're going to do now is just pop this 45 ACP ejector in here in our high cap frame. Next step, we just put in the 45 slide assembly on. Gonna line up the link of this barrel There we go. Get our slide stop in place. Now we're gonna put back our recoil spring cap. Be careful with this one, might shoot out if you're not careful. And we have a 45 high capacity 1911. Now, the only thing lacking is our 45 ACP magazine. So I got this Mech-Gar high cap 45 ACP magazine. This one's for a Para Ordnance P14. So now since the arms for, if you're in the US, the Rock Island Armory, high cap 1911s are compatible with the Para Ordnance P14 magazines, I believe the high cap 1911s of the Springfield Armory for the USA and Norinco's from China also use this type of magazine. All we gotta do now is function test if it works. Now I know what you're thinking. We just put together that 1911, but does it work? So I got a fully loaded 14 round magazine here with round nose bullets. These are Teflon coated because I prefer them to the exposed lead bullets. So in our 1911, let's see if it cycles. Okay. Locks open when the magazine's empty. Now I know what you're thinking again. Does it feed reliably with hollow point bullets? So I got a fully loaded magazine and I got some hollow point ammunition loaded in this magazine. So let's see if this high cap 45 1911 can feed reliably hollow point ammunition. Locks open on the last round when the magazine is empty. So there we have it. We just made ourselves a 45 high cap 1911. One last reminder when changing calibers and swapping frames is to keep in mind of the design of your 1911 frames, as we see both have feed ramps in the frame. Though not identical, they still use the standard barrel system. So both frames are compatible with standard barrels, whether they be a 9mm barrel like this one on the right or a 45 barrel on the left. We can see that their feed ramps are both of the standard 1911 design. They do not have any feed ramps attached to them and are both compatible and interchangeable with these frames, whether it be a single stack 45 or a high cap 9mm, because of the feed ramp and barrel design compatibility. When changing calibers, keep in mind of your ejector. The 9mm and the 40 Smith & Wesson is different from the 45 ACP. Now looking at the upper assembly when doing a caliber change, you do not necessarily have to change the slides, but take note of the caliber of your barrel and the recoil spring system that you will be using. Whether it's a 9mm, a 45, a 40, use the appropriate recoil spring system with your caliber. Of course, let's not forget the magazine, whether using a single stack or a double stack high capacity, and the caliber in which you're going to be using.